Hello everyone, this is Zooc and today I'm going to be playing a bit with some Witch Doctor builds on Inferno difficulty. Before I say anything, I just want to tell you guys that I have a cold, so if I go into a coughing fit in the middle of this, it's not to annoy anyone, it's because my throat is screwed. So basically, the first build I'm going to approach is a very popular and very powerful build that was used by some guy to kill... actually, it was a variation of this build, to kill the Butcher in 9 seconds. And Asmodan in 20 seconds. He just posted a video some time ago. I just hit 60 like a couple of days ago, and I haven't done much progressing. I've mostly been just experimenting with builds and stuff and see how things work. So the whole purpose of this particular build is basically to put out as much DPS as possible, buffed as much as possible in the shortest amount of time, and just get the shit over with. Like you can see here, there's an insane amount of nuking going on. Zombie bears. Most Witch Doctor builds revolve around how long you can stand still versus how long you can move. Because on Inferno, if you haven't played Inferno yet, it's mostly about surviving, really. Because you get one shot by most mobs, and the whole deal is to stay alive as long as possible so you can kill elite packs and get the Nephilim Valor stacks, which give you magic find and gold find extra, like 10% for each, I think it is. So basically, this build is all or nothing. You pop your cooldowns. You got Fetish Army, Mass Confusion with AoE damage increase, damage taken increase to mobs, obviously. And then you got Big Bad Voodoo with Rain Dance, which gives you mana regen and haste and movement speed. But that all kind of is redundant because you're just sort of sitting still for this, if you pop all your cooldowns and do your thing. So this is an extremely good boss build because you can all out nuke the boss with not that powerful gear and do a lot of damage. And if you fail, then you know your gear isn't enough. But most of the time, failing isn't really an option. The problem with or actually failing isn't really the outcome of this scenario, because this build is fucking sick. The disadvantage of using this one build is that it doesn't really have a lot of sustainability. Like, you pop your cooldowns and then everything is on cooldown. You do have Vision Quest though, which gives you 300% mana regen, but your only two abilities that you can actually use are Spirit Walk and the Bears. So if you can't kill normal packs with that, which you can, then you're kind of screwed. But there is a chance that sometimes you get fucked and you have to pop your cooldowns like I just did here. Walked into a huge pack, had to use my big cooldowns, which are like 2 minutes each, to kill these guys before they got the chance to touch me. All in all, I mean, this, for Act 1 at least, this build sort of works, but I'm more of a fan of sustainability instead of burst. Because if sometimes, you know, you find an elite pack and you kill it, and then literally 5 seconds later you find another one and you have no cooldowns, and so you have to die and walk back and this and that. So I prefer spells with shorter cooldowns, which I can use indefinitely, basically. This you can't really use indefinitely. Even in a boss fight, if you use this and it fails and you actually manage to stay alive, you have to basically run around for 2 minutes until you got the rest of your cooldowns, because bears are almost melee range, so it doesn't really work for you to just sort of walk up to the boss and cast bears, because you're gonna get not one shot, you're gonna get your face splattered all over the fucking room. So that doesn't work. But for normal packs it does, because you can pop Spirit Walk, literally walk straight in the middle of them and pop your bears, and bears will kill them before they even have a chance to know what hit them. And if you of course stumble across an elite pack, the fetishes prove to be a very useful tank, because enemies trip on them and they can't really get to you. Also, you got the follower, also you got the gargantuan. That's kind of the whole point. Keep a meat wall in front of you while you pop everything you got. So for elite packs, it's definitely a good build, but I wouldn't say it would be my first choice. I'm gonna talk about 3 builds in this video, because I'm very curious in finding out what's the most optimal build. There's like a million freaking builds all over the internet, of course, because everyone is theory crafting what's better, what's this, what's that. But it does come down to personal preference. Like, some people really like to kite. They find that aspect of the game really fun. So they don't actively search to use builds that involve you sitting still a lot and bursting, like this particular build. But it is very efficient and it is very good for bosses. And see there, this mob is kind of problematic because it just walked away. The bitch just screwed my entire shit. Decided to walk away out of the range of bear, so I had to move. And now she's gonna pop the ice shits and destroy me. Because it's so fucking close. Look at that. That's insanely close. I would have killed her ass if the things would have exploded like 1 second later. All it needed was one bear cast. But I managed to keep her in combat for some reason, and therefore I finished her off now. Pop my cooldowns for no reason at all. So after you do that, I guess the best thing to do is not to sit around and pick up loot, but go kill as much shit as possible because you got all your followers up. One other aspect of this build is if the mob moves, you're screwed, because if it moves out of the mass confusion AoE, which gives it 20% damage taken extra, you lose out on that, and you lose out on a big part of what this build is about. Also, if you're forced to move out of the big bad voodoo range, which gives you 120 something mana regen every second, which is again a big important part of this build, because bears go through your mana like raging lunatic. Your mana just goes if you don't sit in the thing. You can do it without, but not on Inferno. It works on Hell, where mobs have much less HP than this. But here you actually do need the 120 regen, especially for a boss fight, because this is a boss build essentially. So you get to use another build for the trash. You get to the boss, you switch to this. But the disadvantage of that, of course, if you switch, you lose your stacks. So you're sort of forced to go with this build in a dungeon. Another one I'm gonna use is this one build that this guy swears by, like Dire Bat's crits build something. He says that it got him all the way through Act 1 and 2, and he's halfway through Act 3 with it, and he's having fun with it, and it's amazing. Basically, wall of zombies with creepers, I think it is. So it spawns 3 zombies that deal damage. And then you got Horrify with increased range. It's a Splinters build. And, well, I mean, mainly a Dire Bats build, and you use Splinters in between. But I didn't have any success with it whatsoever. Like, I died like a little bitch over and over again. It just doesn't seem to have that crowd control ability that you want from the Witch Doctor, because that's kind of what it's about. Either you nuke the shit out of them with that build, or you manage to somehow kite them and crowd control them. It's not like a one-button spam build like the fucking Demon Hunter. Like, the Witch Doctor forums, if you ever check them, is full of whine for people complaining about damage and versus other classes like Sorceress and Demon Hunter, which are apparently the 2 classes that are considered overpowered right now. But I'm sure it's about, they're gonna look into it and maybe balance it out a bit. Maybe decrease mana cost on certain abilities, or increase the efficiency on other abilities, because we have a lot of shit. We, as in the Witch Doctors, have a lot of stuff that is completely redundant and unusable in any circumstance at all. Some spells are just there for filler, and that's annoying. And the third build I'm going to use is one that I sort of came up with on the spot. It is a Kite DOT build. Again, being a fan of sustainability and usability in any situation, this build sort of works for me, because it being Inferno, you spend most of the time running around anyway, unless you're doing that bear nuke shit. So it makes sense to do as much damage as you can while running away from mobs. So it is also a Splinters build, but I'm using Locust Swarm with the last rune, I think it is, Fiery Locust or something. Basically deals 400% something extra weapon damage as a dot. Also using Acid Cloud or Rain of Acid. I'm not sure what the abilities are called, I just know what they do and what they look like. Acid Cloud with increased range, Grasp of the Dead with reduced cooldown, Soul Siphon, or like Soul Harvest with Lifesteal, and Spirit Walk with mana regen, just in case. And of course I'm using the passives that reduce cooldown on Spirit Walk and Soul Harvest, and increase your mana by 20%. I think it's Spiritual Attunement. I'm not using Vision Quest on this in this build, because it's really pointless. You can't really use it. You won't have cooldowns. But the whole point of this build is that you have 4 spells, or actually all spells, with little to no cooldown that you can constantly use while kiting, not to mention crowd control and ways of slowing enemies and ways of speeding up your speed. So here I stumble across two elite packs, and unfortunately I am gonna die because I just got unlucky really there. Vortex mobs are a problem. If you use your Spirit Walk before they cast Vortex and then they pull you in, you're kind of fucked. Especially with this guy with his illusions and his dogs running around. So I do a little bit of cheating here and pull into the guards, because the guards are sort of good at taking care of that. They sometimes manage to take aggro off me. In this particular quest or scenario, obviously. But there I'm trying to dot the shit out of him and run away. And you'll see later on, it's a very shaky start, like it doesn't prove how useful this build could be. But later on it does get better when I finish these fucking things off. Right now they're all being annoying. Sky popping illusions, and now he's gonna disappear and bug out, because that's what Diablo is all about. Fucking bugs and stupid crap happening. But no, I mean, I do like the game. It was sort of a disappointment, but it's not like as bad as people say it is. So at my DPS, which is about 17k, like I haven't gotten really any gear at all at level 60. A friend gave me a weapon, a two-hander, which doesn't really have optimal stats for my class. Like there, it just disappeared, the fucking thing. Like where the hell? Just lagged out. Like I was doing damage to it and it just disappeared. And there he is, just chilling, not doing shit. A friend just gave me a weapon that has like 900 DPS and a bit of int. But that's really about it. Like I haven't gotten any super armor piece that would really make me powerful or anything. I'm just still using level 50 something gear that I got in Hell. So this is a good example, because a lot of people are having issues as soon as they switch. They finish the game on Hell and they switch to Inferno, and they just get pwned like little bitches. As was my case. When I switched with the build I had in Hell, I got destroyed. Like I thought this was, everyone was saying like just wait until you get to Inferno. Like I was saying, this game is easy, it's all good. And then I got to Inferno and it just raped me in the face straight off. Beginning mobs just like one shot me. So it is a pain, and you gotta make some compromises to find an optimal build that does work in various scenarios. But my point is to find something that works on trash and bosses equally well. And this build does seem to have some potential. Maybe it needs to be tweaked a bit. Like instead of Acid Cloud, finding something like Wall of Zombies for certain situations. Even though Wall of Zombies would have like the longest cooldown and it would be a pain to use. And it doesn't really do as much damage. Like you'll see here, the Goblin doesn't really have a chance to even cast the portal before I DPS it down. So it does do a good DPS, it's not about that. It's just, it's not a burst build, it's a very sustainable build, like dots and run the hell away. But you can do it forever, that's the main advantage of it, and that's why I think it might be good. Yeah, some people that are really into, I'm not the theory crafting kind of guy, I'm just looking for something to play with that will be good. So here I stumble across an elite pack, I get hit a couple of times, but I do manage to run away, and it does do a lot of damage to them. It does like, what, 15k maybe, or 10k DPS while not even touching them. So that's better than most builds, because when you run away and kite, you can't really stop and attack unless you're at a comfortable distance. So the Grasp of the Dead has 6 or 8 seconds, I think it's 6. So you can basically spam it as soon as it's up and just slow them down constantly. Also, you got the pets doing damage to him, you got, not the pets, but the follower that is sometimes managing to take aggro off you, and then you can come in close and cast the Locust Swarm, because that again is a stupid fucking melee range spell. I just don't get that. But it does have the advantage that these spells will always be, their cooldown will always be up for the next pack, so you can just keep going and going and going. Mana wise, you get most of your mana back through Spirit Walk. Like you don't need Vision Quest to get mana for this build, because it doesn't have skills that you spam. Like you cast Locust Swarm, then Acid Cloud, and you run. Your mana does regen because you have Spiritual Attunement, so that's not a problem. And you can just keep going forever. As for elite packs, they take a bit longer than with the bear build, but it's not as risky and you don't make as many sacrifices as you do with the bear build. So, I don't know, it might be decent. Forums are full of people like suggesting really dumb builds as well. There was this one guy that I saw claiming that his suicide build was the best for Inferno. Like, I just say he was all casual and she's like, "Hi guys, I just got to Inferno and I have this awesome build where you just suicide on elite packs. It only takes 3 deaths to kill them all." Like, what the fuck kind of shit is that? And he was posting it and telling people why it works so well. Like, dude, a suicide build? Like, are you serious? The point is to find something that keeps you alive and makes you do damage, not fucking turns you into a kamikaze bomber and just... That's just dumb. This is why, you know, it takes a lot of experimentation finding something that works for you. And I'm not partial to kiting or not, but I just want something that makes sense. Because a lot of shit seems like it does, and people write huge paragraphs on the forums as to why it makes sense. But in the end, if you think about it, there are spells that could replace the ones in the build that do much better DPS, or allow you to survive much longer. Like Hex, a lot of people swear by Hex with Hedge Magic, but the fact is that Hedge Magic is not percentage based. I think it's flat, and when you get to a certain point in your HP pool, you don't really get a lot from the heal that the Shaman or the Hex thing gives you. So then it becomes somewhat redundant. But people say like, yeah, I went with Hex all the way through Act 3.5. So, you know, it takes... Some people get lucky with loot, some people get lucky with weapons, and I haven't gotten lucky with... I'm lucky that I have a lot of friends that have no life, because they play a lot, and I sometimes just randomly join their party, and one of them decided to give me this 900 DPS weapon at some point. So here I encounter another elite pack, and a lot of normal mobs. The AoE is fine, it's not burst, but it does plenty of damage to finish him off with 2 casts, and that's good. And now it's running time, really. Like, there's not much left to do except slow them down, refresh Locust Swarm on them, walk up to their faces, cast that shit, and just run away. And splinter whenever you can. Obviously, this would be a pain with fast mobs, but I think I had fast mobs a bit earlier. I don't remember. Basically, you want to time your Spirit Walk if you still have mana. You can use it exactly when they corner you, like now, you know. Just went in, popped it, moved away, slowed him, put my dots on, and just ran the hell away. And because of the reduced cooldown, that proves to be very useful, because it really is a lifesaver. And I can't imagine a build without Soul Harvest either, because the amount of damage that you get from the int buff, I think I get 5,000 extra damage. That's not to be taken lightly. That's 5,000 DPS. Yeah. It's not something that's just like, oh, maybe I can do without this. Plus it's the lifesteal, plus it's everything. Like, it's one of the most useful skills we got, so... I don't know, Spirit Walk and Soul Harvest, I think I'm always going to try to include them in some builds. Previously I was running with something that was somewhat successful, but I didn't test it out, like, in the field. It was a pet build. No, wait, what was it? It was a double slow build with Dire Bats, Splinters, Spirit Walk, and Soul Harvest. So basically you had a wall of zombies with increased radius or range, increased width. You had the Grasp of the Dead with the falling corpses, which does a lot of damage. I think that could be used here as well. I ruined it with reduced cooldown. But considering the amount of damage it does, because it is a lot, I think I could try that out. Maybe, and see how that goes. Because if that kills mobs before I have to reuse Grasp of the Dead, or if it keeps them busy long enough for me to DPS them down with Splinters more, then maybe I don't have to use it as often. Here I do an event with this build just to test it out further, because I literally like made this build myself because I was pissed off that the previous one failed so miserably. We know that guy wrote this whole forum post about how awesome that build is and that it's the best ever and whatever, and he feels overpowered with it. I just died instantly with it. Maybe I don't know how to use it, but it seemed pretty straightforward. Like, you know, you fear mobs and you pop wall of zombies and you kill them with Dire Bats. But apparently either I don't have the gear or the crit, because apparently his build revolves around Dire Bats critting. But the crit builds are just so irregular, and I don't know. unforeseeable that I don't like that. I like knowing that when I cast something, it's gonna do the damage it says it does, not barely scratch the mob and then I'm left without any cooldowns or with an empty mana pool. So Splinters here is definitely useful because it makes me DPS while my mana regens if I am saving up Spirit Walk for something. But I try to start off with Grasp of the Dead just in case there's like a fast mob spawning, because I'm scared in this game. Like I really am scared. Mobs walk to you from across the screen in like 1.5 seconds and just insta-gib you, which is a problem. But that's where Spirit Walk comes in, and you run like a little bitch, like the Witch Doctor is supposed to do, and you try to slow them down as much as possible while keeping them busy. But this dot build, I mean, when I get better gear, I think it's gonna really prove to be one of the more useful ones. Also the bear build. Those are my two main builds. The pets, I know I've made a previous video after I finished normal where I was talking about how awesome pets are. Yeah, pets are pretty useless. Pets get literally like 1 or 2 shot. Zombie dogs, the worst ever. Zombie dogs are absolutely worthless. But I don't know, maybe with certain builds, and because they just scale so poorly that you can't really use them. But maybe with certain builds that revolve again around nuking. This is the build I was using in Hell, was with zombie dogs as well, towards the end. You had 4 pets up, zombie dogs and gargantuan, and the follower, and you basically had a meat wall and you walked up to the mobs and spammed bears with Vision Quest on. So you had 2 cooldowns that were 1 minute each, and then you had 2 cooldowns that were 15 seconds and whatever Soul Harvest is, I don't remember. So it was, if you failed in a boss fight and you didn't do enough damage, it was still easy for you to run for 1 minute rather than oh, was it Dire Bats? I think it was Dire Bats. Yeah, 4 pets, Dire Bats. It's still easier to run for 1 minute than it is to run for 2, like with the other build. But of course it depends on how lucky you get, how much you crit, what gear you have, what you personally prefer, etc, etc. So, but this was just like a experimentation video, just to, you know, see what people are using. Like if you have a better build that you know works much better than what I have, feel free to paste it in the comments or whatever, because I'm always looking for stuff to use and test out. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you for my next videos. Bye bye.